that if you think exhaustively about what you would like, it will come approximately close to what you are and where you are. Now, you perhaps would not agree with me if you were very sick and in great pain. But I will only ask, how do you know you're sick? You know it, of course, by contrast with other states of feeling. Those states of feeling would not have seemed to you like health in a world where the possibility of sickness was absent. The contrast may be provided to you by the sickness of other people, or it may be provided to you through anticipation of or memories of your own sickness. But just as the realization of being comes from the pressure, as it were, of two opposed forces, so health requires sickness, and sickness requires health to be experienced. Integration implies disintegration, implies integration. So that's the kind of a system in which we have involved ourselves, and you can see that you cannot conceive of any other system. It's simply impossible to think about. It's an inconceivable energy pattern. You always require the yang and the yin. That may have something to do with the fact that we are a symmetrical organism, with the two lobes of the brain mirroring each other, crossing their nerves, and two sides of the body approximately mirroring each other. And it may be due to that, it may be due to the fact that our neurons fire either a yes or a no. That is to say, they either transmit or don't. 0 or 1. That may be the reason why we have to think in that way. But then, if I say we have to think in that way, who is compelling us? Do you see that in common speech, in an expression like, I have to do it that way, there is no other way, and the sense of feeling, I'm commanded, I'm compelled, goes back to the notion that there is some exterior force, God, instinct, fate, or whatever you want to call it, that shoves me around and makes me do it like that. Because you thought, that's not the way I wanted to go. But if you think more deeply, you will see that is the way you wanted to go. That is the situation, the kind of total energy field with these, shall I say, laws, although that's a terribly misleading word because it always implies the lawmaker. But that is the character of the energy system in which you're involved. And that is you. Your body is a total exemplification of it. So if you get sick and you say, damn it, I don't want to be sick. Actually, you do. Because your whole being is sick. And very often you know the cases when you've been burning the candle at both ends and doing too much and trying, in other words, to grab too much power, and you suddenly get sick. Because your nature says you must stop. You must take stock of things, you must come to your senses because you're out of your mind. And therefore it arranges for you to be sick. I've noticed this dozens of times. When I was working too hard, giving too many lectures, I get a vague feeling of disliking doing some of these things, and there's no way of begging off except by getting sick, because getting sick is a perfect excuse. Everybody accepts it. See, supposing I felt very tired before I came down here this weekend, and thought, what would happen if I had to just didn't want to go? Well, I'd be inconveniencing all these people, and poor Esalen people would have to get on the telephone and start calling around, and lots of them would be already on the way and they couldn't reach them. But supposing I couldn't go, supposing I was laid flat on my back after a heart attack, well, then everybody would feel very sorry for me, and they would feel perfectly, it was quite okay if they went to all this trouble and were disappointed, because it could be ascribed to nature and was not the act of the ego. But you see, if you read the book of Grodek, called The Book of the It, it's a very fascinating book. I don't agree with everything Grodek thinks, but Grodek gave Freud the idea of the unconscious. And the id, calls it in English the it. The Book of the It is in the form of a series of letters written by a goblin called Patrick Troll to a young lady. And it's more Freudian than Freud. It's very, very erotic, very earthy, but it goes deeply into the meaning of illness. He was a great physician, a wonderful masseur. And a friend of mine years ago read that book and said, ever since I read the Book of the It, I have not been afraid of being sick. Grodek had a marvelous faith in the processes of biology and of his own organism. A truly religious faith. Now, we don't have that, you see. It's characteristic of our culture that we, of all things, mistrust our own bodies. And therefore we figured out every conceivable way of interfering with them and doctoring them and surgifying them. And but we don't think about this in the long run, where it's all going to lead. Because we are completely brainwashed into A, the abject terror of dying, and B, the notion that we must be in charge.